I just want to give a quick update on my trip to Phoenix for the National Convention. It was a great trip. Ann and I were able to make connection with some really inspirational people. I've got a couple of ideas for guests to come up, some guests that showed an interest in coming to Alaska. That was really good. Some tidbits of information that sat in my heart. One, we are one of 405 centers or teaching chapters throughout the world, the entire globe. There's about 350 centers and about 55 teaching chapters. So there were a lot of people that didn't realize that we are part of a much larger movement. This is not just something that's here in Anchorage, Alaska, and at Mile High Church in Denver. This is, a much larger movement. And the other thing is that in this center, we practice what we preach. And we like to have fun. We pass the basket, and I tell a corny joke. And but 1/10 of everything that we collect, we send to home office every month. That's not true with everyone. And home office experienced a deficit of almost $300,000 during last year. Alaska CSL is one of the ones that not only met their commitment, but exceeded their commitment, and all we ever did is send in 10% of what you give every week. And when I see what is done with those funds, it's truly heartwarming. One of the videos, and this is the one that really shook me the most, was in Nairobi, and this group of kids singing our songs, the stuff we sing every Sunday, in better English than I have. We are making a difference in this world, never doubt it. And speaking of music, let's move to that.
I hear the music.
In 1903, a group of Buddhist monks in Thailand completed a project that they had been working on. They had built a giant Buddha. Now this Buddha was the big, round, jolly, fat, laughing Buddha. It was 9 feet, 8 inches tall. But the most remarkable thing about it is it was solid gold. And they kept that, and they worshiped it as that part of themselves, as part of their deity. They worshiped the Buddha and his teachings, and it continued for 350 some years. But in 1757, they learned that the neighboring peoples were going to invade Thailand. The Burmese were going to invade Thailand, and their armies were marching in that direction. Well, they didn't want to give up this solid gold, 9 foot, 8 inch tall Buddha. It was worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they couldn't hide it. It was too big. They didn't really know what to do with it. So they covered it with plaster. They covered it in plaster and made it look like it was a giant plaster Buddha. And they even went to the extent of they put in cut glass jewels. Instead of having real rubies and emeralds and whatnot, they used stained glass and put that in to make it look like it was a creation of a very poor group of people. Well, the invasion occurred, and unfortunately all of the Buddhist monks were killed, but the marauding armies looked at this giant Buddha and thought, and they didn't do anything with it. As the years turned into decades, as turned into centuries, things went on. And then in 1957, another 200 years later, somebody got the bright idea they were going to restore a lot of the old things, and they had to move this giant Buddha. So the engineers figured out, oh, plaster at this density, da-da-da, is going to weigh this much, and they hooked up their ropes and they went to lift it. Well, it was a lot heavier than they had anticipated, and one of the ropes broke, and the giant Buddha fell to the ground and cracked. Bet the feeling was about like that. Some of these drivers that are giant trucks that are going under the overpasses, I don't know. But I'll bet it was the same kind of feeling. And yeah, they probably said something. But somebody got the bright idea, and they went and they started investigating, and they looked at it, and there was a glint of something inside, shiny. And so they chipped away with a hammer a little bit, and a little bit of the plaster fell apart, and what it revealed was the solid gold Buddha. Under the plaster of thought and beliefs that are not the truth of who we really are lies ourself, the golden Buddha. Well, welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. Thank you all so much for coming out today. A little chilly this morning, but you made it on time. Everybody must have advanced their clocks. I think we'll be having another wave of attendees in about 30 minutes. But thank you for coming out today, and thank you who are online watching us. It is indeed an honor to be invited into your home or wherever you are. Our monthly theme is authenticity. And I like the way Camille started last week, and she talked about initially thinking, oh, that's going to be a great topic, and then, oh, wow, what do you say? I came across my quote too, and it said, be yourself, because everybody else is taken. And I have shared with you before, my first year, maybe year and a half, I don't know, in this pulpit, in it wasn't 19 that far ago, 2014, I spent all of my energy trying to copy Roger Teal. I wanted to be the Roger Teal of the North. I wanted to be as good as Roger Teal. And a year and a half later, I came to the realization, I'm a really crappy Roger Teal. And if I was going to do anything, I had to refocus and at least try and be the best Don Fleming that I could. Well, you notice today, I am not Stevie. Stevie was supposed to be here today. You may have been mixed up, but there are some subtle differences in appearance. But what a wonderful thing that we have, that we can do what we do in this center. And how appropriate is it this morning that when things are a little out, that somebody else steps up and can step right in. Linda, thank you so much for being our utility infielder, outfielder, hits to all bases. And we've got a whole host of practitioners that do exactly that. And we've got a lot of other people that are doing that. So this is a pretty remarkable group. The title of my talk today is Already Taken, and I think you can see where we're going with that. I'm going to look at some different ways to release the pressures that we have within our culture, within our society, within our world, pressures to be who we are not. And to do this, I want to talk about cultivating three things. First, I want to cultivate an awareness of who we really are. Secondly, I want to cultivate a compassion for ourselves. And thirdly, cultivate the courage to choose vulnerability. When we get into this whole thing of being our true selves, I immediately think of Brené Brown and her work with shame and vulnerability. And so a lot of today is right out of Brené Brown. First of all, cultivate an awareness of who we really are. The moment that we were born, our world dramatically changed. We went from an environment where we were warm and taken care of and comfortable, and we were perfect in every way. Everything that we had was there for us. Every need was met. And we went from that into a world that was very, very foreign to us. And we no longer had every need met instantly. But we learned that we could get those needs met. When we learned that we could cry, we were fed. Or our diaper was changed. Or whatever need we had, we got. We were loved, we were cradled, we were hugged. We got all of our needs met. But as we grew, we had to pivot once again, because we were being taught that in order to get those things, in order to get that love, the support, even down to the food and shelter and all of the other things, that we needed to behave a certain way. We needed, and we were told to be like this, or don't be like that, so that we could meet the expectations of others and even make them feel better about us. Once upon a time, our little center here brought Don Miguel Ruiz to Alaska. What a great thing that was. And Don Miguel Ruiz talks about this process of learning to meet others' expectations as domestication. And I think of, a wild horse being domesticated, or even a wild dog, and how our authentic needs and wants become less important, and how we need to be so that we could fit in and get by. At the temple of Apollo in Delphi, it's inscribed, "Know thyself." And this is where we must begin if we are going to cultivate authenticity. Through self-inquiry, journaling, therapy, spiritual practices, and study, we create space within to awaken from our domestication. We get to know who we are instead of who we are supposed to be. We discover that our light has been hidden behind erroneous beliefs and identities that have been picked up along our life journey, which cause us to shrink back from living out loud. Second point, cultivation, to cultivate compassion for ourselves. And boy, that's another tough one, but I think it's very, very closely related to compassion and awareness of who we are. Those two are very tightly married because we cannot really appreciate who we are until we can learn to love ourselves. It doesn't always feel comfortable or safe to live authentically. Our thoughts and feelings may be different from those around us. Oh boy, we see that today. I mean, we've seen families split apart over politics. We've seen great division in our world. And we learned that there are consequences by not fitting into the group. If you happen to believe one way politically and yet your tribe, your group believes another, very, very easy to be an outcast. The instinct to survive and our need to belong is so strong that we would rather hide our authentic self for fear of those consequences. The fear of exile and abandonment, fear that we are not enough, or the most fearful of all is the fear that we are not lovable. In this thing called you, Ernest Holmes invites us to start from the truth. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks fulfillment. That's profound. Your soul belongs to the universe. Your mind is an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe, this thing we call God, seeks fulfillment. But in looking at this, I was actually looking for another quote, one of my favorites, and it's on page 107 of the Science of Mind book. And my favorite quote, perhaps of all, is the third paragraph down, but I looked down at the second paragraph. And the second paragraph had something, I've read it hundreds of times. I don't know, hundreds, a lot of times. And it just really resonated. Man is made out of and from life, capital L, life. As effect must partake of the nature of its cause, so man must partake of the divine nature from which he springs. All effect, everything, all effect, everything material in this world, even our thoughts, must partake of the nature of their cause. And so man must partake of the nature from which he sprung. Man must partake of the nature of the divine. We did not create our nature. We cannot change its inherent reality. We are what we are. And we use this nature for better or worse. Wow. We can use this nature. We can use this inherent divinity, that thing that is within each and every one of us that has to be there because we have been made by a power that's greater than we are, and we are at choice. We can use it for better or for worse. Starting with ourself as a spiritual being, we can start to recognize ourselves as unique beings that are perfect and whole and complete just as we are. Just as each snowflake is perfect in its own design, you are an expression of the divine, embracing all of ourselves, even the things that we judge as not being good enough, even the things that we ourselves put ourselves down for. The parts we like, the parts we have been told not to like, opens us to grace and compassion for ourselves. Life is not asking us to be something other than ourselves. It is this self that longs to be revealed and seen. Each one of us has that within us that longs to be seen. Third, cultivation. Cultivate courage. The courage to choose to be vulnerable. It is not possible to be seen if we hide. It's not possible to belong if we do not welcome others into our circle. In order to cultivate authenticity and no longer hide the parts of ourselves that we were afraid for others to see, vulnerability is required. I love our choir. They have fun. They do stuff together. Nobody's going to mistake us for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. They're not going to confuse us with some of the great choirs of Europe. But nobody can ever doubt our authenticity. And they have way too much fun. This is a serious endeavor. And they're up there having fun, laughing and joking. And really, if you want to experience some of that, well, let's just say you don't need to worry about rejection. What a wonderful group. And to get up and sing, it requires vulnerability. I don't have that much. Well,
yes, you do.
There was that epic solo, wasn't there?
That's right.
Yeah.
Ain't happening again, I'll tell you that. It can be scary, it can feel like a risk because it is. And the outcome is not within our control. We want to control everything. And boy, when you get up there, that's without your control. Courage will support us when we take those risks, trying something new, trusting another with our heart or story, and when we need to stand in or speak our truth. And the key word in there is trust. And that's another thing that I absolutely love about this community is we trust one another. You don't need to be afraid to be yourself. Brene Brown, in The Gifts of Imperfection, talks about courage. She says, courage is a heart word. In fact, the root of the word courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. In one of its earliest forms, the word courage meant to speak one's mind by telling all of one's heart. To speak one's mind by telling all of one's heart. I want to, these are all great things. Oh, it'd be wonderful to be courageous and to be authentic and to, step away from shame and all the things that Brene Brown writes about in there. I find fascinating and so powerful. But let's be honest, we're not going to go make that switch overnight. It ain't happening. At best we can do is move the needle along. There are days when we have more courage to be vulnerable than others. Those days it will feel like a struggle. The theme for the year, this month is authenticity. The theme for the year is LOL, living out loud. Living out loud authentically will bring us to our growing edge. It will bring us to the edge of our comfort zone. Courage is what keeps us moving through the valley of the shadow of death. Okay, 20 minutes, so I better wrap this up. Conclusion, what I want you to take away. It starts with getting to know yourself. Self-inquiry and spiritual practices bring awareness around what is happening within us in our reactions to both internal and external stimuli. They help us get in touch with our thoughts and feelings, which is necessary to living a conscious life. We have to be aware of what we're thinking. That journal where we write down that stuff in foundations class is powerful. Being in a spiritual community and surrounding ourselves with people we trust also supports our journey of cultivating authenticity and giving us opportunities to be vulnerable and to be a witness to others. A witness, not a judge. Emerson wrote that imitation is suicide. Don't try to be Roger Teal. To live a life as someone other than your authentic self is not to live your life. You are living someone else's. Cultivating authenticity is not a means to make others accept or approve of you. It is a practice of being real. Being real, just like the Velveteen Rabbit. As we grow to love and approve of ourselves, it is you being authentically you because everyone else is already taken. So isn't it time to chip away at that old plaster to reveal the real gold that is you? And so with an awareness of that part of ourselves that is an expression of God, I invite my colleagues, the practitioners, to join me in surrounding our congregation, both those here and those online, in love and light and peace and serenity, knowing that as we go through life there are bumps. And it is not the bumps that make the difference, it's how we react to them. And we know that we have been given the opportunity to choose peace over conflict. We have been given the opportunity to choose prosperity and abundance over lack and limitation. We have been given the opportunity to choose health over disease. But most of all, we have been given the opportunity to love. Setting aside anything that looks different than love, we get to carry that love with us wherever we go. Whenever we need it, it is there. For that is the very love of the divine. We can never be separate from that infinite creative force. And so I speak my word in this moment for those who are experiencing loss. We just simply know that infinite force is with us always. And yes, we may feel loss, we may feel sadness, and it is only right that we do so. But the capital T truth that is underneath it is that we are beings of love, and we are eternal beings, and that love can never, ever be destroyed. So we just give thanks. We give thanks for our awareness of the infinite nature of love. We give thanks for our awareness of the power and the presence of God. And so we just release these words to the working of a law that always says yes. And so it is. Oh, thank you, choir. And now is the time in the service where we are afforded the opportunity to participate in one of our spiritual practices, the law of circulation. I'd like to recognize some of the people that we have online today. Pamela Mariska. Isn't she a famous actress?
Yes.
Wow, Mariska's joining us today.
Yay.
Joan, Teresa, and Jerry. Well, thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And coffee. What's coffee? Coffee's on.
Coffee. Later.
Oh, reminder to minister, announce that there's coffee after service in. I thought it was, maybe it was Mr. Coffee, I don't know.
Could be.
And I didn't get a joke, so I guess we're gonna have to step right into our affirmation, right fast if you're writing a check. Here we go. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.